We're here with David Sereno, attorney at law for more than 25 years here on Maui. We're talking now about an issue that really has impassioned viewpoints on both sides, but I'd like to speak mostly to sort of the legal aspects of this, and that would be guns, weapons in Hawaii. And I'm curious to know what is legal and what is the process for that to actually obtain a weapon and what you can obtain here.
Okay, so Hawaii probably has one of the strictest gun laws in the country. Their gun laws have always been the strictest in the country. And there are certain things that are unavailable to purchase here. You can't have automatic firearms. You can't have rifles with barrels less than 16 inches. You can't have shotguns with barrels less than 18 inches. You can't have mufflers or silencers. There's a big debate on the mainland right now as to whether or not they should be, in some places, should become legal. You know, the hunters are claiming that it saves their eardrum somehow. The danger, of course, and the reason why they don't make them legal is because it allows a gun to be fired without putting out as much noise as it would otherwise put out. And therefore, it makes the ability to shoot surreptitiously a lot easier. You know, it doesn't completely muffle the sound, but it sure does reduce the amount of sound that is made because of the way the gases are dissipated coming out of the barrel. Wow. So those things, and you can't have things like, you can't have a magazine that holds the bullets, if it can be fit in a gun that is a pistol, it can't have more than 10 rounds. Now what people need to know is that there are some magazines on some older guns that they may use only for their rifle, but there have been, if there was a handgun made that accepts these bullets, so a 15-round magazine in a rifle would be okay. A 15-round magazine in a handgun is not okay. So if you have a 15-round magazine in your rifle, but that 15-round magazine can also fit into some form of a handgun, even though you don't have that handgun, you're in trouble.
Wow. And I wanted to also talk about self-defense. What does it mean to defend yourself in Hawaii? And do we have some sort of stand your ground law? How does that work here?
Well, in Hawaii, we break it up. We say, listen, there's deadly force and there's non-deadly force. So when you're not using deadly force, you have a right to defend yourself. You can defend yourself from an unlawful touching, and it's based on what you perceive at the time, what you see as the problem. In using non-deadly force, you do not have a duty to retreat. Now, the minute you move to deadly force, which could be the use of a knife or a gun, you have a duty to retreat only if you can do so in complete safety. So if you think turning your back to the guy who's looking at you with a gun is not going to be good for you because he could shoot you in the back, you don't have a duty to retreat at that point because it would not be an ability to retreat in complete safety. Now, if you're at your home, you have no duty to retreat. Okay, now you can't start the fight though. You know what I mean? You can't sit there and say, oh, I pointed my gun first and he pulled out a gun and then I shot him because you started the fight, basically. I mean, the law's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's basically it. You don't get to encourage a confrontation and then claim you had to use self-defense to protect yourself. Because a stand your ground law is typically viewed as a law that regardless of where you are, you have no duty to retreat, ever. Even if you can do so in complete safety. If you believe that that's the force necessary, and that's again another issue, but it's the force necessary to protect yourself, then you don't have to it's equivalent of being in a home in Hawaii. You don't have a duty to retreat.
Wow, interesting. And do you see any changes on the way, implications of the current administration, anything like that?
Here's the thing. The federal government can regulate what the federal government can regulate. They have no authority to tell the states not to regulate certain types of gun issues, unless it impinges on a person's constitutional right to possess a firearm. The courts have given great deference to each state as long as there's a state interest in regulating guns. Different states have different laws, but the federal government kind of sets a standard. I know that what the NRA is hoping is that the courts will come out and say people have a constitutional right to carry in certain places. They're hoping that it'll be determined that, for instance, in Hawaii, in order to get a concealed carry permit, which is carry a gun, you're not law enforcement now, okay? Me or you. To carry a gun concealed, I need to apply with the chief of police and show cause why I need to carry a gun for my safety. There are some who believe and that in fact that impinges on our right to carry, to protect ourselves, and our Second Amendment right to possess firearms. And ultimately what a number of gun enthusiasts are hoping is that the courts will say a person has a right to carry for their self-defense. And of course the people who don't want the guns, people walking around with guns, will say quite the opposite.
Okay, David Sereno, thank you so much. Always interesting to talk to you. I always learn something. We'd like to thank you for watching. I'm Kiaora Bohlool with Maui Now.